The massive viewing screen showed another world burning. High Commander Marcus stood on the bridge of his flagship, his hands clasped behind his back as he watched the familiar scene unfold. The planet below, once home to a civilization that had dared to resist the stellar empire, now served as yet another example of what happened to those who opposed their rule. Marcus allowed himself a small smile. It had been the same story for over 10,000 years. The empire would arrive, demand surrender, and either receive new subjects or new ruins. This particular species had chosen the latter, much to their regret. Their primitive energy weapons had barely scratched the Empire's shields. "High Commander," said one of the bridge officers, "the last pockets of resistance have been eliminated. The planet is ours." Marcus nodded, not bothering to turn around. "Begin the standard occupation procedure. I want our flag flying over their capital within the hour." He had given these orders countless times before. The Empire's efficiency in conquest was unmatched across the known galaxy. Behind him, the bridge crew worked with practiced precision. The stellar empire had conquered so many worlds that the process had become routine. First, secure the major cities. Then, establish control over communication systems. Finally, begin the integration of the new subjects into the Empire's vast network of servant races. "Sir," another officer called out, "Lieutenant Tom from the Scout Division requests your attention. They've discovered something interesting in Sector 7. This caught Marcus's interest. Sector 7 was on the very edge of Imperial space, an area they hadn't fully explored yet. He walked over to the communication station, his long cape flowing behind him. "Put him through." The young lieutenant's face appeared on the screen. "High Commander, we've detected signals from a previously unknown civilization. They're using primitive radio waves, but the volume of transmission is remarkable." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Show me their location." A star map appeared, highlighting a small solar system with 8 planets. The third planet from the Sun showed signs of advanced civilization. Artificial satellites, radio signals, and the distinct energy signature of a developing industrial society. "They call their planet Earth," Tom reported. "And they call themselves humans." Marcus studied the data scrolling across his screen. The humans had achieved spaceflight, but had barely left their own solar system. They had nuclear weapons, but nothing close to the Empire's quantum arsenals. They had computers, but nothing that could match Imperial AI systems. By all standard measurements, they were ripe for conquest. But something about the data made Marcus pause. These humans were different. While most species develop their technology in a predictable pattern, humans seemed to advance in sudden, unexpected bursts. They had gone from primitive flight to landing on their moon in less than 70 years, a pace that was almost unheard of. "Forward me their complete history," Marcus ordered. Over the next few hours, he read through the reports with growing interest. These humans were constantly at war with each other, yet they had also created incredible works of art and literature. They fought over resources, yet they would sacrifice everything to save a single life. They were divided into hundreds of nations, yet they could unite in the face of common threats. The High Commander walked to the front of the bridge, watching the stars streak by as the ship cruised at faster-than-light speed. In all his years of conquest, he had never seen a species quite like this one. Most civilizations developed in an orderly fashion, building upon their achievements step by step. But humans seemed to thrive on chaos and conflict. "Prepare a detailed analysis of their military capabilities," he ordered. "I want to know everything about their weapons, their tactics, and their leaders." The reports came in quickly. Human warfare was primitive by Imperial standards, but remarkably diverse. They had developed thousands of different fighting styles and military strategies. They had weapons designed for every possible situation. And most interestingly, they had an extensive record of weaker forces defeating stronger ones through clever tactics and sheer determination. Marcus spent hours studying their battles. The human called Napoleon, who had conquered much of his continent through superior strategy. the small Greek force that had held off a massive Persian army at Thermopylae. The Vietnamese farmers who had defeated the world's most powerful military through guerrilla warfare. It was fascinating. "Sir," his second-in-command approached with another report. "Should we send the standard intimidation fleet?" Marcus looked at the planet displayed on his screen. By all logical measures, Earth should be an easy conquest. Their technology was centuries behind the empires. Their military forces were divided among different nations. They had no unified planetary defense system. Yet something made him hesitate. These humans had a habit of doing the unexpected. They had survived ice ages, plagues, and their own destructive tendencies. They had looked at the impossible and found ways to make it possible. "We will send the fleet," Marcus finally decided. "But tell Commander Diana to be cautious. These humans, they're not like our usual conquests." The orders were given, and the Imperial machine moved into action. Ships were prepared, troops were assembled, and invasion plans were drawn up. Everything proceeded according to the standard protocol that had worked flawlessly for thousands of years. But as Marcus watched the fleet depart, he couldn't shake the feeling that this conquest might be different. These humans, with their chaotic history and unpredictable nature, might not follow the usual pattern of submission or destruction. For the first time in centuries, High Commander Marcus felt something he had almost forgotten: uncertainty. He found himself wondering if the Empire's undefeated record was about to face its greatest test, not from superior technology or overwhelming numbers, but from a species that had turned adaptation and survival into an art form. As he retired to his quarters that night, Marcus looked out at the vast expanse of space controlled by the Empire. 10,000 years of absolute victory had taught them that their way was supreme. But perhaps, he thought, they had become too comfortable in their superiority. Perhaps they had forgotten that the galaxy could still hold surprises. Little did he know that humanity was about to teach the Empire a lesson it would never forget. Captain James Walker stood at the window of the International Space Station, watching Earth rotate slowly below. The view never got old, even after 6 months in space. The peaceful scene was interrupted by a flash of light near the moon, followed by another, and then dozens more. His heart stopped as massive ships appeared from nowhere. The emergency alarm blared through the station. "Captain Walker to the command center immediately," the speaker crackled. He was already moving, pushing off the walls in the zero-gravity environment with practiced ease. The command center was chaos when he arrived. Screens showed the alien ships, sleek, dark vessels that made Earth's most advanced spacecraft look like toys. They were arranging themselves in a perfect formation, a display of military precision that sent chills down Walker's spine. "Get me the Defense Council," Walker ordered. The main screen lit up with faces of military leaders from around the world. They had practiced for this moment, but now that it was real, the weight of responsibility felt crushing. "All global defense forces are on high alert," General Thompson reported from Washington. "But Captain, these ships, they're like nothing we've ever seen." Walker nodded. "How long until our defense fleet can mobilize?" 2 hours for full deployment. But against that, the general's voice trailed off. Earth's combined space fleet consisted of just 30 combat-capable vessels, hastily converted from research ships when humans first realized they weren't alone in the galaxy. A new signal cut through all Earth communications. The alien ships were broadcasting on all frequencies in perfect English. A face appeared on the main screen. Humanoid, but with metallic silver skin and eyes that glowed like stars. "People of Earth," the alien said, "I am Commander Diana of the Stellar Empire. Your planet has been chosen for integration into our domain. Surrender now, and you will be permitted to serve as subjects of the Empire. Resist, and you will be eliminated. You have 1 hour to decide." The command center fell silent. Walker studied the alien commander's face, noting the complete confidence in her expression. This wasn't a bluff. The Empire clearly had the power to back up their threats. "Captain," one of his officers whispered, "what do we do?" Walker straightened his uniform. We fight. He turned to his communications officer. Get me a channel to respond. Commander Diana's face showed mild surprise when Walker appeared on her screen. I am Captain James Walker of the Earth Defense Force. We've received your message. And you're ready to surrender? Diana asked, her tone suggesting this was the only reasonable response. Walker allowed himself a small smile. Actually, I have a question first. In your empire's history, how many species chose to fight rather than surrender? Diana's expression shifted slightly. Many tried to resist. All were defeated. Your primitive technology cannot hope to match our power. Why waste lives in a pointless battle? Because, Walker said, we're human. And humans have a long history of doing the impossible. He cut the transmission and turned to his crew. Send the signal. All ships launch immediately. We're not waiting 2 hours. Around the world, ships broke orbit in 2s and 3s. They were smaller than the Imperial vessels, less advanced in every way. But they had one advantage. They were crewed by humans who had spent centuries dreaming about space battles, creating stories and games that explored every possible strategy. Walker took command of the lead ship, the EDS Determination. All vessels form up in scattered formation beta. They're expecting us to bunch up. Let's show them something different. The Earth ships spread out in what looked like random positions. The Imperial fleet maintained their perfect formation, probably waiting for the humans to realize the futility of resistance and surrender. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the alien ships have energy shields far beyond our capability to penetrate. Our weapons will be useless. Walker nodded. Then we'll have to be creative. How many satellites do we have in orbit? Over 4,000, sir. Most are communication or weather monitoring. Perfect. Send the code to activate Protocol Omega. Across Earth's orbit, thousands of satellites suddenly changed course. They weren't weapons, but at the speeds they traveled, they didn't need to be. The Imperial fleet's perfect formation was their weakness. They couldn't break ranks without risking collision with their own ships. The first satellite struck an Imperial shield and bounced off. The second did the same, but Walker wasn't trying to break through. He was forcing them to keep their shields up continuously, draining their energy. All ships, execute maneuver Charlie 3, Walker ordered. The Earth vessels began a complex dance, weaving between the Imperial ships in patterns that looked chaotic but were carefully planned. Each pass forced the Empire's ships to adjust their shields, consuming more power. Commander Diana's face appeared on his screen again, her confident expression replaced by irritation. Your tactics are unusual, but they only delay the inevitable. Our ships can maintain shields for days. Really? Walker asked. Even with your engines at full power? Diana's eyes widened slightly as she realized what the humans had done. The Imperial ships had been slowly but steadily moving out of their carefully planned formation, forced to fire their engines continuously to avoid both the satellites and the darting Earth ships. Clever, Diana admitted, but not clever enough. All ships, prepare to fire main weapons. Let's end this quickly. Walker had been waiting for this. All ships, scatter pattern Delta, and activate the magnetic pulse. Earth's ships split apart just as the Empire fired their weapons. At the same time, every electromagnetic device on Earth's dark side powered up at once, creating a massive magnetic pulse. The Imperial weapons, based on magnetic containment, wavered slightly, not enough to fail, but enough to throw off their aim. The massive energy beams that should have vaporized Earth's fleet instead passed harmlessly through the gaps between ships. The humans had turned their technological weakness into an advantage. Their simple, radiation-hardened systems were barely affected by the magnetic interference that played havoc with the Empire's more sophisticated technology. Impossible, Diana whispered. For the first time in her career, she faced an enemy that didn't follow any of the standard combat doctrines. These humans weren't fighting like a primitive species should. They were fighting like nothing the Empire had ever encountered. Pull back, she ordered her fleet. Maintain defensive positions and prepare for. Her orders were cut short as the humans launched their next surprise. Hundreds of small objects appeared from Earth's atmosphere. Simple chemical rockets carrying electromagnetic warheads. Again, not powerful enough to breach Imperial shields, but more than capable of creating localized magnetic storms that played havoc with their sensors. Walker watched as the mighty Imperial fleet began to lose cohesion. Their perfect formation was now a liability, their ships too close together to maneuver effectively through the chaos of magnetic interference and scattered satellites. "Your species is insane," Diana said, her voice a mixture of frustration and unwilling admiration. "This isn't how space combat is supposed to work." "Maybe that's why we're still here," Walker replied. "Humanity has never cared much about how things are supposed to work. We care about what actually works." For the first time in thousands of years, an Imperial fleet retreated from their first encounter with the species. As they disappeared in flashes of light, Walker allowed himself to breathe normally again. They had won this battle, but he knew it was only the beginning. "Send word to Earth," he ordered. "Tell them to prepare everything we've got. The Empire will be back, and next time they won't underestimate us." As his crew cheered their victory, Walker stared at the stars where the Imperial ships had vanished. Humanity had just announced its presence to the galaxy in a way that couldn't be ignored. The real war was about to begin. The Imperial fleet jumped into Earth's solar system with overwhelming force. This time, they brought 1,000 ships instead of 100. High Commander Marcus himself led the assault, his massive flagship at the center of the formation. He had spent the last week studying the embarrassing retreat of Commander Diana's fleet, and he wasn't going to make the same mistakes. "Scan for those primitive satellites they used last time," Marcus ordered. "I want them destroyed before we get anywhere near Earth." The scans came back clear. The humans had apparently removed most of their satellite network after the last battle. Marcus frowned. Something wasn't right. These humans had proven themselves clever. They wouldn't just give up a tactic that had worked. "High Commander," one of his officers called out, "we're detecting unusual movement from Earth's moon." Marcus turned his attention to the massive natural satellite. The humans had established several bases there, but nothing that could threaten an Imperial fleet. Still, he had learned not to underestimate these people. "Sir," another officer's voice was urgent. Multiple objects launching from the moon's surface. Before Marcus could respond, hundreds of small craft shot out from hidden bases on the moon's far side. They weren't military vessels. They looked like mining ships, retrofitted with extra engines. As he watched, they began using the moon's gravity to build up speed, slingshotting around it in complex patterns. "Ignore them," Marcus ordered. "They're too small to cause any damage. Press forward with the main attack." The Imperial fleet moved toward Earth in perfect formation. Then something strange happened. The mining ships, now moving at incredible speeds from their lunar gravity assists, started releasing clouds of debris. Not random junk, but carefully calculated streams of material. "Sir, those debris fields. They're forming a pattern." Marcus saw it too. The humans were using the mining ships to create a complex web of debris fields, all moving at different speeds and directions. They were turning space itself into a maze, forcing the Imperial fleet to either break formation to navigate through safe corridors or risk damage from high-speed impacts. "Clever," Marcus admitted, "but not clever enough. All ships, activate debris shields, and maintain formation." The Imperial fleet pushed forward, their advanced shields easily deflecting the debris. But that's when the humans revealed their real plan. The mining ships, their debris expended, suddenly changed course. They had built up so much speed from their lunar slingshots that they were now moving faster than any Imperial ship could react. "Evasive action," Marcus shouted, but it was too late. The mining ships weren't trying to hit the Imperial vessels. Instead, they shot past at near-relativistic speeds, their gravity wakes creating turbulence in space-time itself. The Imperial formation broke apart as ships were pulled and pushed by the gravitational distortions. "Launch fighters," Marcus commanded. The Imperial fleet released swarms of small combat craft, trying to regain control of the battlefield. But the humans had prepared for this too. Earth's actual military vessels emerged from hiding places in the asteroid belt. They were still badly outnumbered, but now they were facing a scattered, disorganized enemy instead of a perfect formation. Captain Walker's voice came over all frequencies. "Now everyone knows why humans were the first to think of using a slingshot maneuver in space. Let's show them what else we can do." The Earth ships attacked in pairs, using maneuvers that seemed to defy military logic. Instead of concentrating their fire on individual targets, they would shoot past Imperial vessels at high speed, their combined gravity wakes creating vortexes that forced the enemy ships to waste energy fighting against spatial distortion. "This is impossible," Marcus muttered. "They're using gravity itself as a weapon. No species had ever thought to do this before." The Empire's superior technology was being countered by basic physics and human creativity. But Marcus hadn't become High Commander by giving up easily. All ships switched to quantum anchors, stabilized the local spacetime. The Imperial fleet activated their most advanced technology, creating fields that should have neutralized the humans' gravity tactics. But Walker had predicted this too. "Command to all ships. Execute Operation Newton." The Earth vessels suddenly cut their engines and went dark. In the zero-gravity environment of space, they continued on their previous trajectories, but now they were nearly invisible to Imperial sensors. The quantum anchors, designed to detect and counter active gravity manipulation, couldn't track unpowered ships. Marcus watched in growing frustration as his mighty fleet was picked apart by an enemy they could barely detect. The humans were using the Empire's own technology against them. The quantum anchors that stabilized spacetime also created blind spots that Earth's ships could exploit. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we've lost contact with 30% of the fleet. The human vessels are using hit-and-run attacks, striking from our sensor blind spots, and then disappearing again." Marcus slammed his fist on his command console. "This isn't how space combat works. There are established protocols, proven tactics." "Maybe that's our problem, sir," his second-in-command said quietly. "We've been fighting the same way for 10,000 years. These humans, they've spent their entire history adapting and evolving their warfare." A direct hit rocked Marcus's flagship. Somehow, 3 Earth ships had slipped through their defenses. As he watched them disappear back into the chaotic battlefield, he realized something that shook him to his core. The humans weren't just fighting differently, they were innovating in the middle of battle. Each time the Imperial fleet adapted to one of their tactics, the humans would unveil a new one. They were learning, changing, evolving their strategy in real time. It was like fighting an enemy that got stronger every time you hit them. "All ships, full retreat," Marcus ordered. The words tasted like ash in his mouth. "Get us out of this system." As the Imperial fleet gathered its surviving ships and prepared to jump away, Marcus received one final message from Captain Walker. "Thanks for the practice. We'll be better next time." The threat was clear. The humans weren't just content with defending their world. They were learning from every encounter, preparing for future battles. They had taken the Empire's best tactics and technologies and found ways to counter them with inferior resources and primitive technology. As his fleet limped away from Earth, Marcus thought about how he would explain this defeat to the Imperial Council. How could he make them understand that they had encountered something unprecedented, a species that turned their every advantage against them? The Empire had always won because they had the best technology, the most ships, and 10,000 years of unchanged, proven tactics. But the humans had shown them that sometimes the most dangerous enemy isn't the one with the biggest guns, but the one who looks at an impossible situation and thinks, "How can we make this work?" For the first time in Imperial history, a full assault fleet had been defeated not by superior firepower or advanced technology, but by human ingenuity and the creative application of basic physics, the galaxy would never be the same. The Imperial Council chamber fell silent as High Commander Marcus finished his report. The defeat at Earth had shaken the Empire's confidence for the first time in thousands of years. The Council members, each representing a different conquered species, looked at each other with uncertainty. "This is unacceptable," the head counselor said, his voice cold. "No primitive species has ever defeated an Imperial fleet. We must respond with overwhelming force." Marcus nodded. "I agree. That's why I'm requesting command of the First Strike Fleet. All of it." The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. The First Strike Fleet was the Empire's ultimate weapon. 5,000 warships, including weapons that could destroy entire planets. It had never been fully deployed before. No enemy had ever required it. "Granted," the head counselor said. "These humans must learn their place." Back on Earth, Commander Anna Roberts stood in the underground command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. The screens around her showed the planet's frantic preparations. Every nation was working together, sharing technology and resources in ways that would have seemed impossible just months ago. "Report," she ordered, looking at the tired faces of her staff. "We've converted another 300 civilian ships for combat," her operations officer said. "The mining companies have given us their entire fleets. Even the space tourism ships are being retrofitted with weapons." Roberts nodded. "What about the new defense system?" "The gravity web is almost ready. We've placed generators on every space station and lunar base. If it works like the scientists think, we can create a maze of gravitational distortions that will make it almost impossible for the Empire to use their faster-than-light drives near Earth." A warning light flashed on the main screen. The long-range sensors, hastily upgraded after the last battle, had detected something massive entering the solar system. 5,000 ships, someone whispered. "They brought 5,000 ships." Roberts squared her shoulders. "Then we'll just have to be 5,000 times smarter. Send word to all commands. Execute Operation Thunder." Across the solar system, humanity's preparations came to life. The asteroid belt, which looked natural to Imperial sensors, revealed itself to be carefully arranged. Thousands of rocks had been moved into precise positions, ready to be used as weapons or shields. Marcus watched from his flagship as his massive fleet approached Earth. This time, he had planned for every possible human trick. His ships were arranged in a sphere rather than a traditional formation, preventing the humans from isolating and targeting individual vessels. "High Commander," his sensor officer called out, "we're detecting unusual energy readings from Earth's moon." Before Marcus could respond, the humans activated their gravity web. The space around Earth rippled as hundreds of gravity generators created a complex pattern of spatial distortions. Imperial ships trying to use their faster-than-light drives would be torn apart by the conflicting gravitational forces. "Impressive," Marcus admitted, "but ultimately futile. All ships advance at sublight speed. Nothing they have can stop this many ships." He was wrong. The humans had learned from every previous encounter. They had studied Imperial technology, found its weaknesses, and prepared accordingly. As the Imperial fleet moved forward, humanity revealed their next surprise. The asteroid belt came alive. Thousands of rocks, each fitted with simple engines, began moving in coordinated patterns. They weren't weapons in themselves, but they created a constantly changing maze that the Imperial ships had to navigate. "This is just another delaying tactic," Marcus said confidently. "Press forward." Then Roberts unveiled her masterstroke. The civilian ships, which Imperial sensors had dismissed as irrelevant, suddenly powered up strange devices on their hulls. They were resonators, designed to match the frequency of Imperial shield technology. "All ships, activate synchronous attack pattern," Roberts commanded. The civilian vessels, scattered throughout the asteroid field, began emitting waves that matched the exact frequency of Imperial shields. Each wave was tiny, hardly noticeable, but there were thousands of ships, each adding its tiny push to the others. Marcus realized the danger too late. They're creating a resonance cascade. Shut down the shields. But he couldn't give the order fast enough. The combined waves hit the Imperial shields like a tsunami hitting a wall. Hundreds of ships lost power as their shield generators overloaded and exploded. Fall back, Marcus ordered. Regroup, and his words were cut off as the humans launched their next attack. The mining ships, their holds filled with simple metal dust, released their cargo. In normal space, it would have been harmless, but in the gravity web, the dust was caught in the spatial distortions, forming spiraling clouds that ripped through space like sandstorms. The Imperial fleet, already struggling with failed shields, now had to deal with waves of hypersonic metal particles tearing at their hulls. Ships designed to shrug off energy weapons were being damaged by what was essentially space sand. "This is impossible," Marcus muttered. "They're not even using advanced weapons. They're just using physics." Roberts watched from her command center as the mighty Imperial fleet struggled against humanity's clever use of basic science. "Sometimes the oldest solutions are the best ones," she said to her staff. "The Empire forgot that technology isn't everything. Understanding the basic rules of the universe is just as important." The battle raged for hours. The Empire still had numbers on their side, but the humans had turned their whole solar system into a weapon. Every asteroid was a potential projectile, every spatial distortion a potential trap. Imperial ships found their targeting systems confused by simple clouds of reflective material. Their advanced AI computers were overwhelmed trying to predict the seemingly random movements of human ships, which followed attack patterns based on Earth sports and video games, rather than military doctrine. "Status report," Marcus demanded. "We've lost 40% of the fleet," his officer replied, voice shaking. "Another 30% have severe damage. The humans, they're not trying to destroy us, sir. They're wearing us down." Marcus realized the truth. The humans knew they couldn't win a direct confrontation, so they had turned it into a battle of attrition. Every minute the Imperial fleet stayed in the gravity web, they took damage from the metal storms. Every time they tried to regroup, they had to navigate through the asteroid maze. "Send the planet killers forward," he ordered desperately. "We'll end this now." But the humans had prepared for this too. As the massive planet killer ships moved forward, the civilian vessels began their final act. They deliberately flew their ships into the path of the planet killers, sacrificing themselves to create clouds of debris that fouled the massive weapons firing mechanisms. "Sir," his second-in-command said quietly, "we need to retreat. We're losing ships faster than they're losing converted civilian vessels, and our fuel reserves." Marcus looked at his tactical display in shock. The humans had drawn the battle out so long that many Imperial ships were running dangerously low on fuel. The constant maneuvering through the gravity web and asteroid field had consumed far more power than expected. "All ships," he said, his voice heavy with defeat, "prepare for emergency withdrawal." As the Imperial fleet retreated for the second time, Roberts allowed herself a small smile. "Send word to all commands," she ordered. "Tell them to begin Phase 2 of the defense preparations. The Empire will be back, and next time they'll be ready for these tricks. We need new ones." The battle had proven something that would change the galaxy forever. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their numbers, but their ability to look at a superior force and think, how can we beat them with what we have? The Empire had the most advanced technology in known space, but humans had imagination, creativity, and a stubborn refusal to accept impossible odds. And that, as the Empire was learning, was more dangerous than any weapon. The United Nations building in New York had never seen a meeting like this. Every nation on Earth had sent their leaders, not to argue or debate, but to work together. The recent battles against the Empire had shown them all a simple truth: unite or die. General Thompson stood at the podium, his voice carrying to every corner of the packed assembly hall. "The Empire will return. Next time, They'll be ready for our current tactics. We need to change everything about how we fight, how we think, and how we work together." The room was silent. These were people who, just months ago, had been arguing about borders and trade deals. Now they looked at each other and saw not rivals, but fellow humans facing extinction. "I propose something unprecedented," Thompson continued. "Complete sharing of all military and scientific technology. Every nation's research, every secret project, everything we have. We pool it all." In the past, such a suggestion would have been met with outrage. Today, it took less than an hour for every nation to agree. The walls between countries began to fall, not through force or treaty, but through necessity. At the lunar base Alpha, Captain Walker watched the Earth through the reinforced windows. The planet looked peaceful from up here, but he knew better. Every continent was now one massive workshop, with factories running day and night to build new ships and weapons. "Captain," his aide called out, "you need to see this." Walker followed him to the research section. Scientists from 40 different countries worked side by side, sharing ideas without concern for patents or national secrets. On their main screen was something that made Walker's heart race. "Is that what I think it is?" he asked. A young scientist nodded eagerly. "We combined Russian plasma containment technology with Japanese miniaturization and Indian software. Then we added some ideas from video game designers about power distribution. It's not as advanced as Imperial technology, but it works in completely different ways. They won't be ready for it." The invention spread across all of Earth's defenses within days. Every ship, every station, every weapons platform was upgraded. But this was just the beginning. In Africa, engineers combined traditional water management techniques with modern technology to create new ways of detecting Imperial ships through gravitational disturbances in liquid helium. South American scientists, used to dealing with dense jungle warfare, developed new stealth systems based on heat distribution patterns they'd observed in rainforest plants. Commander Roberts stood in her Rocky Mountain Command Center, now expanded to house thousands of personnel from around the world. The screens showed the endless stream of innovations being developed and shared. "It's amazing," her assistant said, scrolling through reports. "The Australians just figured out how to use their experience with preventing animal extinctions to create better predictive models for space combat. The Canadians are adapting ice road engineering principles to develop new types of spatial barriers." Roberts smiled. "That's humanity's real strength. We don't just adapt to survive. We take ideas from everywhere and turn them into advantages." The orbit around Earth had become unrecognizable. Space stations that once competed now worked together in a complex network. Every satellite was a potential weapon or sensor platform. The asteroid belt had been transformed into a sophisticated defense system, with millions of rocks precisely positioned for maximum tactical advantage. But the biggest change was on the ground. Cities that had once pointed missiles at each other now shared everything from food to technology. Universities opened their doors to anyone who could help, regardless of nationality or credentials. A teenager's crazy idea was given the same consideration as a professor's theory. In orbit, Walker inspected the newest additions to Earth's defense fleet. The ships looked nothing like traditional space vessels. Each one was unique, combining different cultural approaches to problem-solving with practical engineering. "These would give any naval architect a headache," his engineer commented. "We've got Chinese feng shui principles influencing shield geometry, Native American medicine wheel concepts in the sensor arrays, and African tribal warfare tactics built into the combat eye." Walker nodded. "That's exactly why they'll work. The Empire expects logical, standardized designs. We're giving them chaos theory in spaceship form." The innovations weren't just military. Civilian technologies were advancing at an unprecedented rate as barriers between nations and corporations disappeared. Medical breakthroughs were shared instantly across the globe. Agricultural techniques from one climate were combined with others to create new ways of growing food more efficiently. In India, A group of programmers had created a new type of artificial intelligence based on the human brain's ability to adapt and learn. Unlike Imperial AI, which followed rigid protocols, this one could change its entire thinking pattern in seconds. The Empire's been playing chess, one programmer explained to Roberts during a video call. Their AI makes perfect moves according to fixed rules. Our new system plays like a human. It can flip the board over and invent a new game if it needs to. The moon had been transformed into a fortress, but not in any way the Empire would expect. Instead of obvious defenses, the humans had gone subtle. Every crater now hid sensors or weapons. The lunar dust itself had been seeded with tiny machines that could form into different structures as needed. "We're not trying to match their technology," Thompson told the UN Assembly in a follow-up meeting. "We're creating our own path. Every culture on Earth has found unique ways to survive against superior forces. We're combining all of that knowledge, all of that experience, into something entirely new." The preparation wasn't just physical. Every child in school now learned about space combat alongside their regular lessons. Video game companies worked with military strategists to create simulations that helped people think in new ways about space warfare. Even sports teams contributed, with their understanding of tactical coordination being adapted for fleet movements. Roberts walked through a newly constructed underground city, one of many built to protect Earth's population. The walls were covered with art from every culture, not for decoration, but because artists had discovered that certain patterns could confuse Imperial scanning technology. "They think they know us now," she said to Walker during a global command meeting. "They've seen some of our tricks, studied our tactics, but they don't understand that those weren't our best ideas. They were just our first attempts." The Earth continued to change. Deserts bloomed with solar farms powering new factories. The oceans were filled with networks of sensors and power generators. The sky was constantly filled with aircraft testing new technologies and tactics. But the greatest change was in the people. Old hatreds and rivalries faded as humanity faced its greatest challenge. People no longer saw themselves as citizens of different countries, but as humans working together for survival. As the last pieces of the defense network fell into place, Walker looked at the rebuilt Earth fleet. Each ship carried the flags of all nations, a symbol of their unity. The Empire would return, probably soon, expecting to face the same tricks that had driven them back before. Instead, they would find something unprecedented in their 10,000 years of conquest, a species that had taken their near defeat and turned it into an opportunity to become something entirely new. Humanity wasn't just preparing for war. They were evolving, adapting, becoming something that even they didn't fully understand yet. The Empire thought they were coming back to crush a primitive species that had gotten lucky. They were going to find something very different waiting for them. The Imperial Council had given High Commander Marcus everything. 10,000 ships filled the space around his flagship, the largest fleet ever assembled in the Empire's history. They had spent months studying the humans' tactics, developing countermeasures for every trick they had seen. This time, Marcus told his officers, "We are ready for anything they might try." He didn't know that the humans were counting on exactly that thinking. On Earth, Captain Walker and Commander Roberts stood in the new Global Command Center, built deep inside Mount Everest. The mountain's natural electromagnetic properties helped hide their activities from Imperial sensors. "They're coming in exactly as we predicted," Roberts said, watching the massive Imperial fleet approach. "They've arranged their ships to counter everything we did last time." Walker nodded. "Then let's show them something they've never seen before. All commands, initiate Operation Phoenix." The space around Earth appeared empty. The Empire's sensors detected no ships, no weapons, not even the debris fields they had expected. It looked like the humans had given up. "This has to be a trap," Marcus said, studying his displays. "But where are they hiding?" His answer came in a way no one could have predicted. The surface of the moon suddenly rippled like water. In the months since the last battle, humans had turned their natural satellite into something entirely new. Impossible, Marcus whispered as he watched the moon's surface flow like liquid metal. The humans had filled the lunar regolith with billions of tiny machines, turning the entire moon into one massive, changeable weapon. The first wave of Imperial ships didn't even have time to react. The moon's surface erupted, launching thousands of small objects at speeds that defied Imperial sensors. But these weren't simple projectiles. They were intelligent swarms of those same tiny machines, each one programmed to find weaknesses in Imperial technology. "All ships, raise shields," Marcus ordered. But the humans had planned for this too. From hidden bases in the asteroid belt, Earth's new fleet emerged. The ships looked nothing like traditional space vessels. Some spun like tops, creating gravitational vortexes that pulled Imperial ships out of formation. Others seemed to flicker in and out of existence, using principles of quantum uncertainty to appear and disappear at will. "Sir," Marcus's tactical officer reported, "we can't get a lock on their ships. Their movement patterns don't match any known combat doctrine." Of course they didn't. Each human ship was controlled by a unique AI, based on the combined tactical knowledge of Earth's most successful sports teams, video game players, and military strategists. They didn't follow patterns. They created new ones every second. The Imperial fleet fired their main weapons, filling space with enough energy to destroy a planet. But the humans had prepared for this too. The energy beams hit what looked like empty space and simply vanished. "What just happened?" Marcus demanded. In the command center, Walker allowed himself a small smile. "Show them what we learned from studying black holes," he ordered. The empty space in front of Earth suddenly lit up. In the months of preparation, humans had created a network of microsingularities, tiny artificial black holes that could absorb energy and redirect it. The Imperial weapons fire hadn't been stopped. It had been captured and stored. "Return to sender," Roberts commanded. The stored energy erupted from the singularity network, but not as random destruction. Humans had learned to shape it, guide it, turn it into precise beams that sliced through Imperial shields, as if they didn't exist. Marcus watched in horror as his mighty fleet was torn apart by their own weapons fire. But the humans weren't finished. The lunar swarms had reached their targets, infiltrating Imperial ships through microscopic gaps in their armor. "We're losing control of our systems," his engineering officer reported. "These machines, they're not attacking our technology. They're changing it." The tiny machines weren't destroying Imperial ships. They were reprogramming them, using principles of evolution and adaptation the humans had learned from studying Earth's biology. Imperial technology, unchanged for 10,000 years, had no defense against machines that could evolve and adapt in seconds. "Launch the planet killers," Marcus ordered desperately. The massive weapons platforms moved forward, preparing to destroy Earth once and for all. Walker pressed a button on his console. "Now, everyone gets to see why we spent so much time studying dance choreography." Earth's fleet moved in perfect coordination, like dancers in a grand ballet. Ships spun and weaved between each other in patterns that looked chaotic, but were precisely planned. The planet killer platforms fired, their beams of destruction cutting through space. But the human ships moved through gaps in the energy beams that shouldn't have existed, their movements guided by mathematical principles derived from studying everything from bee swarms to football plays. "Close-range combat," Roberts ordered. "Show them what we learned from martial arts." The human fleet split into pairs, each ship moving in perfect harmony with its partner. Like trained fighters, they used the Empire's own momentum against them, turning their massive ships into obstacles that blocked their own fleet's fire. Marcus watched as his carefully planned assault fell apart. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were turning everything about space combat on its head. Their ships moved in ways that violated every principle of space warfare, yet somehow worked perfectly. "Sir," his second-in-command said quietly, "we need to consider retreat." But retreat wasn't possible. The humans had used their quantum singularity network to create a web of spatial distortions around the battlefield. The Imperial fleet was trapped. "Attention, Imperial fleet," Walker's voice came over all channels. "You're not leaving this time. But we're not going to destroy you. We're going to teach you something." The lunar swarms had finished their work. Imperial ships started powering down, their technology transformed by the adaptive machines. As emergency power kicked in, the crews found their mighty warships changed into something new, something that combined Imperial and human technology in ways neither side had imagined possible. "Your empire has spent 10,000 years standing still," Roberts added. "You conquered the galaxy and then stopped growing, stopped changing, stopped learning. That's why you couldn't beat us." In his flagship's command center, Marcus finally understood. The humans hadn't just developed new weapons or tactics. They had taken everything they knew, from art to sports to science to nature, and turned it all into something the Empire couldn't counter because they couldn't even understand it. "We surrender," Marcus said, the words feeling strange in his mouth. "But I don't understand. Why change our ships instead of destroying them?" Walker's response surprised him. "Because that's the real difference between us. You conquer. We learn, we teach, we grow. And now you're going to grow with us." The battle ended not with Earth's destruction or the Empire's victory, but with something unprecedented, the beginning of change. Imperial crews found themselves working alongside human technicians, learning new ways of thinking about technology and combat. The Empire had arrived expecting to crush a primitive species. Instead, they had found a civilization that had taken the best parts of everything human and turned them into something entirely new. Art had become warfare, sports had become tactics, and the very nature of space combat had been transformed. As the sun rose over Earth, Walker and Roberts watched Imperial crews learning from human teachers, sharing meals, starting to understand each other. "They thought no one could defeat them," Walker said. "But we didn't just defeat them. We showed them a better way." The Empire had ruled the galaxy through force for 10,000 years. But humanity had shown them something more powerful than any weapon: the ability to change, to adapt, to take the impossible and make it possible. And that was just the beginning.